All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Canadian Quidditch Quarantine Club podcast. My name's Gabe Ferreira, and we're going to go over just some cool topics about Quidditch and try to give you guys as much information as possible and just try to have fun. So for starters, for our first episode, we thought it'd be kind of convenient to go over who we are, both as co-hosts for the podcast, as well as just introducing some of our guests here. So I'll go first, and we'll kind of go through everyone from there. So my name's Gabe Ferreira. I've been playing Quidditch for 4 years now. Most of my Quidditch has been played with the Queen's University Quidditch Club in Kingston, Ontario. I also have experience playing with the 2019 National Ottawa Otters, where we won gold there, as well as MLQ in the summers for three seasons with the Black Bears. So that's my Quidditch background in terms of previous sporting experience. I'm a huge soccer fan, so I grew up playing soccer competitively. And then in high school, I was involved with a little bit of high school volleyball and basketball. And yeah, it's all about me. We'll kind of pass it on. Maybe go to Nate.
Sounds good. So everyone, my name is Nathan Reid. I've played 5 years of Quidditch. I played 3.5 of those years at Queen's Quidditch. And then I also played a semester with the Ottawa Otters, where once again, being mentioned, we won the 2019 National Championships. And then this past season, I played for the Mississauga Manatees when I moved down to Toronto for school. Some of my sporting background, so I grew up doing a lot of track and field as a sprinter, and that definitely helps me when I play Quidditch. And also I have some experience as well playing hockey and a little bit of basketball as well. I guess we can move on with Bryan next.
Hey guys, so my name is Bryan Melchior. So I played for 3 years with the University of Guelph Quidditch Club, then transferred over with the rest of these gentlemen over to the Ottawa Otters, National Champions 2019. You're going to hear that a lot. And then recently this year, I actually started the Mistry Manatees team, placed third at regionals. Played last year for the inaugural season for the Toronto Raiders. This year coming up, I am the assistant coach, or one of the assistant coaches. As far as sporting background, I've honestly kind of played every sport, but Quidditch is kind of like my first contact sport, which is weird enough, being like a big 6'3" guy. So I did baseball, basketball, badminton, tennis, and competitive swimming and diving as well. But yeah, looking forward to talking to you all. First guest, I guess let's throw it over to Mo.
Hi, so I'm Mohnish Mistry. I played 4 years of Quidditch total, retired now. 3 of those years were also for the Queen's Quidditch Club. And then final year played for the Ottawa Otters, as the guys have already kind of said. Some of them have previous sports background. Not a lot of people might know, but I did a lot of martial arts. I did martial arts for 12 plus years prior to Quidditch. So not a lot of takeaway from there, but definitely know how to take a hit, I guess, in that sense. So, yeah.
Awesome. And we'll pass it on to our second guest for the podcast, Cody.
Hey, I'm Cody Rennick. Live in Ottawa, played in Ottawa for the GGs. Been playing since 2014. So a little bit longer, I think, than everybody else here. Played for the GGs for a while. I think I won a national championship there. Then played a bit for the Black Bears for 3 seasons, I think it was. And then played for the Otters last year, 2 years ago, I guess now. And then I had a short stint with Carleton this past season. In high school, and when I was younger, I played a lot of sports, kind of like Bryan, just played a lot of everything. But mostly it was basketball, football, and soccer. But yeah, kind of just dabbled in a little bit of everything and kind of found Quidditch University. It was a great fit.
Awesome. So that's just kind of an introduction, a little bit more formal. Obviously the rest of the podcast is going to be a little bit more loose and semi-formal in terms of a format. So for our first podcast, we thought it'd be kind of cool to just talk more generally about the state of Quidditch in Canada. Is kind of how I framed it. And also we want to kind of talk with Cody and Mo about like kind of leading a team to success. I know they seem to think that they weren't like super instrumental in that, but like obviously they were the captains and like we looked up to them as players when we were playing with them. So we wanted to kind of have them on and maybe more talk about like what it would take in terms of like a community team. We had a lot of questions in the CQA Facebook group about like starting teams, all that kind of stuff. And obviously one of the interesting questions that we want to bring up is like the whole college versus community teams, and whether eventually there could be a split there. So like just kind of general background in terms of starting a team and what it would take to kind of get that going. So, but to start though, we want to first talk about sort of like where do you guys see Quidditch right now? So I know that we, the three of us co-hosts, so myself and Nate and Bryan, we kind of talked about like just like how we think of like Quidditch Canada currently. So we talked about sort of like the league structure as it is now, like the national team program, and then the whole like Harry Potter versus like the athlete debate. So like I know there's a lot there, but if you guys want to just kind of chime in terms of getting the conversation going regarding like just how you guys perceive the Quidditch community in Canada right now as it is.
Sure. So I guess to begin, just Quidditch from I guess when I first started to what it is now, I would say is definitely a lot different. Different in the sense that I think when I first joined, things seemed to be a little bit scattered. There wasn't a lot of structure. Yeah, we had our kind of regional, national championships, but tournaments aside from that were still kind of like up in the air. They were very much just all over the place. There wasn't a lot of structure. I think now there's a little bit more structure in the sense of like the way tournaments are run, both the regionals and nationals, but also the like school hosted tournaments and such as well. There's definitely a little bit more emphasis on refereeing. I think the structure there has changed a lot too. There, requirements now for teams and stuff like that. So I really think that just from when I started to where it is now, it's definitely grown a lot in that sense. I think it's got a little bit more structure to it now, a little bit more, a little bit more, just in general, yeah.
Yeah, like honestly, from when I started though, like I was in one of the groups that had the last year of the World Cup, so right before QC and like USQ split. So from my perspective, it changed like massively, and I've seen it grown from like pretty much QC's birth. And I think we're like in a better position now, obviously, than we were before. And I do think we're trending in the right direction, in the sense that we are getting, like Mo was saying, we are getting better tournaments run, and they're more consistent from one tournament to the next, which we weren't really seeing before. Whereas like one tournament, you would be really well organized, the next tournament would be really, really late all the time, which is something that was always happening in Quidditch. But now I find that most of our tournaments are more on time, which I think is the biggest thing. So like it's easier to volunteer and have to organize all the volunteers, all the refs and things like that. And then it puts less stress on the field managers and things like that as well.
Yeah, so like I think the biggest like the reason why I was interested in like the whole like league structure aspect of it was just obviously like we have more time to think about things, so like it's a good time to reflect on this. But like for me personally, like looking at like the play, I guess like overall play at regionals and nationals, like there was some people that were saying that like the overall play is, I don't say diminished, but it's not as like crisp as it could be. Like I've been watching a lot of like a lot of the US Quidditch with a lot of the university teams there, and like just watching, like we talked about the three of us about like just the passing that they have, like it's just so much more crisp, so much more clean in the American game versus like some of the university teams. So I guess the idea really stemmed from just like having more tournaments in general, I guess. So there was three sort of like structures, I guess you could say, about how the league could like change, or if it would be better to keep it as it is. So one of them that I thought of personally was just like having a MLQ style, like having like divisions. So like you guys, we've all had MLQ experience. So having like the whole super series setup where you would have maybe let's say on a weekend you would have like Queens in the East Division would play against McGill in a super series. So for those that are familiar with MLQ, so you'd play 3 games against that team in the best of 3 sort of format, and then maybe they play Carleton, like kind of that kind of thing. So like having it set up that you have 2 different divisions, you have an East and a West, and then you would play a super series in the East and a super series. Well, I mean, you play more than just one super series, obviously, but you have super series going on in East and West, and that establishes like kind of a ranking. So you would have that over the 3 months leading into the regionals in November, and then you'd have the regional tournament, and then hopefully that would kind of improve the overall play, I guess, in terms of teams. So I don't know what you guys' thoughts on that sort of format.
Yeah, so I'm definitely in favor of that format because I find that, at least from my experience playing for 5 years, usually the only tournaments that were like guaranteed from the start of the season that you knew about were regionals and nationals. I think Mo kind of touched on this earlier, where like you would, like, let's say you make the team and you kind of like attend your practices every week, and usually it's like a week or 2 before the tournament actually is scheduled where you find out about it. So at that point, I guess with the practices, like you're practicing learning the game and like developing as a player, but you're not really sure what you're, I guess, practicing towards yet until, I guess, at the last minute. And I find that with that, a lot of players, let's say for those tournaments that do happen, which are usually limited in terms of, I guess, the course of the season, especially in the second semester where there's usually a lack of tournaments, I find some of those new rookie players kind of drop off as the season goes on just because they're not getting selected for those tournaments that do happen, and they kind of lose interest over the course of the year. And so I find with your idea of having like a super series type of, I guess, schedule throughout the season, it just allows teams to have more opportunities for the rookies to get like live game experience and to kind of grow as a player as they play throughout the season.
Yeah, I like the idea in I think like the Lost Episode 0, as I'll coin it. Like we've talked about this. I think it's a decent idea. I think the biggest benefit out of it is we need more games. And like I look at the US and I look overseas in Europe, and like they play a bunch. And I think Canada being a smaller country, you kind of expect like less games or less people playing, which is true, but it's not really the trend that we want to see. Like I remember my first year, I think we played 3 or 4 tournaments before regionals, then we played regionals, then we played nationals. And like having that experience, especially my first year being like the year that Royal City also started, we had a ton of rookies who all just had experience like coming out of that. And that was huge for keeping that program going. But as kind of time goes on, there's like programs that only show up to 1 tournament before regionals, or they get a couple games in just to hit that minimum. And you can kind of see it in the growth of their program that they don't have that retention, they don't have that development that you kind of want to see to have a successful team. I think that's the biggest hit.
Yeah, I agree. I think I definitely like the ideas of doing, like a super series type thing where you can get teams to play like more games before your major tournaments. I think, Bryan, you said it there really well in the sense that like, the Guelph program for Quidditch has always been top notch year after year. And I think a big factor in that is the fact that they do have, players on Royal City who are gaining a lot of that experience, a lot of that game time. And so when, Guelph does need to pull from, say, that team for the following year or whatnot, they're pulling players that already have a lot of game time experience, which I think helps a lot. Going back to that whole Super Series idea, I think it'd be pretty interesting to see, especially teams that are maybe closer in the standings play together in a super series of maybe 3 or something like that, because we've definitely had games throughout the year where things have been super close between 2 evenly ranked teams, and maybe it was an overtime game that a team lost in. I think it would be neat to see what that would play out in, say, a 3-game series, give the chance or the team another chance to go at it again. See how teams maybe change up their play style against other teams, how they learn and adapt throughout that series as well. I think that will really benefit teams and players themselves too.
For sure.
Yeah, and I think like to go on that point too, I think like being able to know your opponents well in advance would also help in terms of like your strategy going into the tournament, like the Super Series in this case. Like being able to showcase more on your team's ability to prep for these games would be really interesting to see, and what kind of strategies they bring in to each individual Super Series. But it is also important, I think, too, because like Nate was touching on, just like to keep younger players involved and wanting to keep participating, and you can play with your roster and you play with your lineup between each games. Like if it is a set of 3, your roster can be completely different from game 1 and game 3. And then that way, the more games you play, obviously everybody gets better, but like you can tinker with your lines a bit here and there and see different line combinations that you're not scared to try if it's a 1 game and lose you're out kind of thing. But would you suggest that like QC implement this, like in terms of like they set the schedule and what weekends are like playable kind of thing?
Yeah, so like I think the main idea, and like that's part of the reason why like I think it's probably something that, like, I mean, we're talking to some of the people, like it's definitely being discussed, and I think the general consensus is that everyone wants to see more games. Like as Bryan was saying, we're all going to get better by playing more games. And I think there's kind of a shift towards even just changing the current format we have, so that we have like a change in like the tournaments, so that we're not like, there isn't like, because like if you think about it, there isn't really any point to like winning like a mini tournament. Like obviously regionals and nationals is what we're all working towards, but like winning the Guelph Invitational is like, yeah, it's awesome you win it, but like it's not really, you don't like, what do you win, like a little beer pong set, or like, hey, that's awesome, that's a cool prize, but like, you know what I mean, like it's more about developing the players. So, like I guess in terms of your question, like Cody, like I think part of the problem is that it puts all the onus on Quidditch Canada, and I think what they were saying was that they were afraid that like clubs would lose that like the independence of being able to pick what tournaments they want to go to. But I think in the long run, it's going to benefit everyone if even if we have a certain number of games you have to go to, or sorry, not games, like tournaments you have to attend in order to qualify for regionals or nationals. If that makes sense. Like you can't just go to regionals. You have to at least go to one tournament. So like at least like we're like kind of controlling how much like actual game time practice teams are getting, so they're not just kind of showing up at regionals and just getting absolutely destroyed, right? Another kind of interesting point that you guys brought up there was in terms of like prepping for like a series. So this kind of connects with like we were talking about. I was talking with Bryan about like video footage. So what are your thoughts on like what we have currently in terms of like film for like studying film, or like showing like film to like teams and stuff like that? Like, what do you guys think about our current situation, and how do you think we might be able to improve that? And even get like maybe talking about like what it used to be like. I don't even know if they took film from like the earlier days, but like what was it kind of like, and how has it kind of progressed from there?
So I think film's definitely gotten better over the last few years for sure. I know my first year at the like regional and national championships were all just recorded on little like handhelds or whatnot. And I know now with regionals and nationals, we are getting, better quality live streams and footage that we can go back and review and actually be able to see things happen and whatnot. After the fact. But I think one area that we might still be lacking in is just the different views. So I know I've tuned into a lot of different regional tournaments and national tournaments in the States that happen in the States. And one really interesting thing that I really enjoy that they do is that they actually put their cameras like higher like than pitch level. So you kind of get more of an overall area or aerial view of the pitch and what's going on. So you have a wider view of like everything that's happening a little bit more. And I think as things are a little bit more clear, you don't have people walking in the way or chatting in the background or whatnot. And I think that would be something interesting that like QC could implement, at least maybe at regionals and nationals to begin with, to be able to get a little bit better footage in that sense. I know with like school run tournaments, it's maybe a little bit harder. There's equipment and all of that school teams might not have access to. But I think starting with maybe something like that for regionals and nationals would be pretty neat.
So like real quick, I was having a discussion with a couple people the other day, and yeah, since like when we started, I remember simple camcorder, and then it went to camcorder with a tripod, and then it went to like proper recording equipment, and then realizing, wow, that's expensive. Maybe we should kind of scale it back a little bit. And finding different alternatives is great. But I think like the biggest problem right now, in my mind, isn't necessarily the cameras we have. It's the practices. Like I completely agree. Like I've watched MLQ footage over and over, and they have like scaffolding basically set up to put like a story high. And like sure, you could have a wide angle camera, a wide angle lens, and you could see everything, and that makes it easier. But just having it higher gets you like an ability to see the field. And if it comes down to like, oh, we don't have a good enough camera or whatever, like everyone has a phone. Like this should be enough to film something. Like if you film like one game and then upload it to the cloud or wherever, like I have an iPhone X and like whoop-de-doo, like Brian's all fancy with that, but like that stuff films like better than anything we've had in the past. Like why don't we use that? Like I know like you don't want to take the responsibility of like, oh, someone has this or someone has that, but like if you're running a tournament or like it just takes like a friend to like, hey, can we come out, do the filming with your phone, we'll take it, upload it to my computer, boom, easy footage. Like you could do the same thing with a snitch cam. Like if you really wanted to go that far, and that gets a little bit more complicated, but it's there. Like we have the technology in the palm of our hands in front of us. It's just a matter of actually using it properly, right?
Yeah, like to add on to that, like when you have the ref and the volunteer schedules, you can basically like appoint someone. I know they do it for I guess some tournaments where you have like videographers that record and also I guess commentate games, but you can definitely like assign someone where it's like you're gonna use your phone, you're gonna record the game, and then you're gonna upload it or send it to whoever is in charge of all of that. And I think that'll definitely help to make sure that all games are covered in that sense, or there's footage of all games, not just like the major games. But once again, but I think that'll definitely be something we could probably implement going forward.
Yeah, considering where we came from like way back in 2014, there was zero, like almost zero footage at all of like random games. At least now we are seeing some footage, even though it is not the greatest angles and things like that. At least there is something at most games. Like at least every tournament I've been to this year and last year, I think almost every game was recorded as much as they can. So I think in that aspect we've grown a lot. But like you guys said, like the angles make the biggest difference. There's so many good plays that you miss out on seeing if it's at ground level. And there's been so many, and I was reading a couple of comments too earlier about like so many just off camera things that happened that were so cool, and some people like missed out on something like that. But if it's a bit higher, it opens up your camera in the sense that like you see more of the field all at once too. So you would see those plays, and you would see more of like even just more of the beater play, because a lot of the beater plays lost when it's on ground level because you're following the quaffle play so much. Yeah. But as you get higher, you get to see the beaters do their stuff, and like it's just something that I think that deserves more recognition when we are like reviewing film and things like that.
Do you think as simple as like literally standing on a table or like the top of a little step ladder? Like it sounds
it could be that simple.
Honestly, I think it could be that simple. Honestly, yeah, just I think raising that camera up higher, even if it's starting small, like just standing on a ladder might help a lot.
The insurance risk is there, but like I think that's like we could put like have someone stand behind, like holding the hips, make sure we're good. Like that's the minimum you could do. But like yeah, I think putting that extra like 6 feet up or 8 feet up, whatever it is, like I don't even I can't even describe how much better that is. Like it makes it almost seem professional. Like I've watched a lot of European Quidditch, and like it's oh geez, there goes my video. It makes it seem like it's an actual legitimate pro sport. Like that simple. Like oh my god, like we're watching from above.
The was it I guess the QPL is their summer league, I think, right?
Yeah.
They had like the broadcast thing where they had this one guy going to the stands with like the mic and stuff like that. Like that, like could you imagine that in MLQ? That'd be so sick.
I've seen it. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's unreal.
I do want to add too, and I think Brian touched on it too. I think there's a lot of benefit in potentially adding like a GoPro to the head ref and or to the SR. I I think in terms of adding a GoPro to the SR, I think that would be really, really interesting. There are a lot of times where there's questionable catches, not really sure. Well, now you've got footage to review, especially in a lot of those like really close, potentially meddling games. I also think that potentially even just like a GoPro on top of the head ref would be quite interesting. One, to get a different angle overall of what of the game of Quidditch in general. But two, I think it would help a lot with the referees in general, and the quality of referees. I think there's sometimes there are teams that put in um, you know um, like complaints or suggestions about the head ref. I think it would be cool for gameplay to be able to go back to review to see what the head ref was seeing at the same time when they're going over some of these reviews or complaints and stuff like that, to get a better idea of really what happened, what the head ref actually saw, and to be able to help teach referees more so as well in certain situations. I think that would really benefit not just QC, but also the players within QC and the refs.
Yeah, I think they tried that in USQ at one point. I remember watching footage of one of the refs. I forget who it was, unfortunately, but they had the same thing. They had a GoPro on him while he was reffing, and it was interesting to watch because you see exactly what they're looking at and what they're focused on during gameplay and stuff. So, and like you said, Mo, I think it'd be really good to, like, in terms of reviewing our refs, like if we're talking, I know we're not really talking about refs, but like if we wanted to get our refs better, like it'd be good to see what they're seeing, and like even for themselves to see their mistakes or like where they need improvement. I think that in itself would be super valuable for the sport, and like making sure that it's more consistent game in, game out for them.
Yeah, for sure. And then, okay, I think the only other thing I wanted to touch on this, so we can just kind of shift gears, was the idea of costs. So obviously, if Quidditch Canada was like going to have to organize like a whole like schedule, if you will, before the season even starts, obviously that's a lot more like pressure for them and like a lot more responsibility on their end. So as previous players, if the cost per player was to go up, would that be something, if you knew that it was going to benefit the league, would that be something that you'd be interested in? Or do you think it's already, because I know that was one of the topics was that like people are already complaining about the cost, but if it's going to advance the sport, is that something that we're willing to do at this point?
I think it's different for everyone. Like I think it's different for all of us considering where we are in our lives right now. But like as a first year, second year student, I might be more upset about it for sure. Like having that limited income that you might have, whether you want to spend it on Quidditch or not is completely different than like if we're going to be spending it on as a fourth year, even after university kind of thing.
For sure.
But for me personally, I do think like if there was like your QC membership went up $10-15 at the beginning of the year in order to benefit the league as a whole, whether that be like adding extra people to QC's staff just to help them out. I know a lot of them are volunteers, so it's kind of irrelevant in that sense, but or like getting the better camera angles, things like that. Like I'd be all for that.
Yeah, I think Cody brings up a good point. Is that because we have such a wide range or age gap or age range, I should say, within QC, like Cody's saying, we've got first year players that might have limited income, whereas we might have people that are working and are able to spend the extra like $10 or $15. So definitely depends on your kind of situation. I think if the players definitely see like upfront benefit from that, whether that be potentially more tournaments because they can organize that more, or just better facilities potentially at national or regional tournaments and stuff like that. I think for the players, they want to be able to see that cost being used up front right away into something that they can really benefit from. I know a lot of that might go to behind the scenes things as well, but I think if there's a way to make that cost increase really benefit the players where they can see it and actually benefit from it right away, then I think a lot more people would be on board with that.
Yeah, to add in on to that, I think if players knew exactly where their money was going, because I find like after playing for 4 or 5 years now, like the membership cost, I guess over the past 4 years probably went up once or twice, and I always like question myself, like, where is the money going to in the league? I know they pay a lot of, I guess that money goes towards paying refs at tournaments and whatnot. But I feel like if players knew exactly kind of like where their money is going to, what it's paying for, and all that kind of stuff, I think a lot of players would be more willing to give up their money for that, knowing that it's going to help grow and advance the sport, rather than being like, well, I'm giving this organization a whole bunch of money, but I'm not seeing like the results from it. So as long as it can be like, I guess, clear and more open to sharing that information, if they are, I think that'll definitely help.
All right, awesome. Okay, so kind of building off that, then we'll shift gears towards interesting topic. I think it'll be pretty short-lived, just because I think based on where Quidditch Canada is now, it's going to be tough for it to even be a reality. But obviously, we know that like in the States, they have like the split now between college, club, or community teams. So I guess, what do you guys think it would take? Obviously, it would take more teams, but like, when I guess the better question is like, when do you kind of envision there being that like more of a legitimate conversation around like splitting the community versus college teams into two different leagues, if it's even possible. Like, I guess the big one with that is just like more recently we had like in regionals, we had out of the 14 top teams, 3 were community teams. So I guess I personally, I don't really care. I think it's good competition, but I'm a competitive guy personally. So like, but for people that are kind of coming into the sport and just want to play whatever, and they don't want to be playing against people that are like out of school, like, what are your thoughts on just like kind of the current system in terms of that, and like if you see us kind of moving away from that, and if so, like kind of when? I guess we'll start. Mo can go first.
Sure. So I mean, I love the idea of the split. I think the U.S. did a decent job at doing that split, but I think it really boils down to having enough teams. The States, they definitely had enough teams to be able to do that split. I know they've got over 100 plus teams there, spread out across the States, probably more than that, to be honest. And so when they did do their split, they were able to, easily do that. I'm sure there was a lot of headache behind the scenes that maybe we didn't see or hear about. But I think it really boils down to the number of teams. I don't know if Canada really can do a split until we have a decent enough amount of teams to be able to do that. That being said, I think there might be ways we can adapt our current system to handle that whole college or university team versus community teams. I know at say this idea just kind of popped in my head now, but at your major tournaments, your regionals and your nationals, I know Gabe, you alluded there to the fact that like out of your like top 4 teams or whatever, 3 of them were community teams or whatever that was. I think it would be interesting to see potentially like a super series type bracket almost for community teams at regionals and nationals. So maybe they play the same 2 or 3 teams over the few days. Maybe there's a best of 5 series or something like that, and you kind of have a community team bracket on that side where you kind of have a like community champion or whatever, and then you have something similar like a similar style bracket, maybe not a super series but just your normal bracket style play or round robin type games for your college teams, and you kind of have your university or college champion, and then maybe at the end there's a final game against both champions. I think that would be an interesting way. For the community teams, you'll be playing, you might be still playing the same amount of games over the 2 days over the weekend, but you might be playing, you're going to be playing the same team or same set of teams kind of over and over. But I think it might be a nice balance, especially for those like college teams who, every time they go up against a community team, might just get absolutely destroyed. At least now there might be a little bit more chance for them to move up in standings and stuff like that. And on the community team side, you have a little bit more, you have more challenging games, obviously, because you're facing people that probably a little bit more experienced and all of that. I don't know. That's kind of my thought. That'd be pretty cool to see something split like that. I don't know if there's really and the ability to do that split just yet. I don't think we have the teams for it, but I think that would be cool to try to incorporate some sort of split at some sort of level, but not fully split off just yet.
Like one negative I see with that idea, with the split of the community teams and the I guess the college university teams at major tournaments, is that for those community teams, like you mentioned, like the top 3 out of the 4 teams in the country are all community teams. So if you're to do like best of 3 or best of 5 super series, then those 2 teams are just going to be like beating each other up for 5 games. And I find like over that possibly like increases the risk, I guess, for injury, just with like how physical usually those top teams are. And just I find that I think you can also touch on this. Like, I just feel like those teams would probably get bored of playing each other so many times because you're just playing the same team over and over again. And like, I don't know. I think it'll probably just be not as fun or as enjoyable for those community teams compared to the rest of the league who have more opponents to play against over the course of the weekend.
Well, that's kind of what it's been the last few years, though, too, right? With like the NAFTA slide, right? The top of the bracket was kind of similar to that, where it was the top teams just played each other, and then one team dropped out, and you brought another team in. But it was like that 4th team, I guess, that was brought in was another team that you've always played against all season. I know that was an issue we had when I was playing for the GGs. It was just like we always played like the same 3 teams the entire season. So every regionals we played the same 3 teams, nationals we played the same 3 teams. But I think that's still an issue that we're facing, regardless if we did do that split or not. I do think with that community split, it would be good the way that Mo was outlining it. So long, like it kind of sucks for now, right now, with the amount of teams we have. But in a couple of years, hopefully there would be more club teams or community teams. That it wouldn't be as that, and we'd get closer to what USQ is running with more of an actual bracket itself. And then I do like the idea of having like a winner take all, a community versus college finals, I guess, just to see who, like, as to have an actual champion of like the nation, I guess. Yeah.
You know, I agree. I think like the whole rivalry thing too, where like you're playing against like Guelph and Valhalla. Like you're just playing against the same people over and over, and it gets frustrating. I know that even like with nationals, when it was in Hamilton, like all the West teams came all the way out west, and it was just like they were playing all the West teams. It's like we flew across the country to play like different teams, and we're playing against like C's playing against like Vancouver. It's like I didn't fly all the way out here to play teams I've been playing all year, right? So it's just kind of like I don't know.
I think that that one was just like there was the whole Waterloo Edmonton rivalry that happened, and I think that was just unfortunate planning. Like the whole weather incident with like the 70, 80 degree or 70, 80 kilometer an hour winds, like knocking over hoops. That was a whole thing, and then those games. And I know like at McMaster there was, I think it was like 15. There was originally 16, then I think it became 15. And then like all like 3 of the West teams were all in the same bracket or in the same pool or something. It's a lot of it. Like I work with QC with some of like the background gameplay stuff, and like it is occasionally like kind of unfortunate logistics that end up happening, and like you can't be like, oh well, I think this is a better matchup because this would make more interesting Quidditch, and these 2 teams should go at it because like dance puppet dance, like that's it. You have to justify it in a way that like if you take the names away from it, Team A plays Team B, and then you see what happens. And like unfortunately, those matchups happen over and over. And like for community teams, like having to play each other like constantly, yeah, it kind of sucks. But I think you got to look past the like this is about me. I want to play this. I want to play and do that. Like you got. I think community teams as a general, we have to look like a little bit bigger than ourselves and see where we can help and like expand the league. Like absolutely, like, I want to keep playing Quidditch. Like I'm enjoying it. I need something to do. I want to keep going, and I don't want to be like pushed off to my own little league with all the old people and like not get to play against new people and new talent. But I don't want to be beating up on some 18-year-old kid that like can't not defend themselves, but like is gonna get pummeled by me. Like I don't want to hurt people. It's hard, right? Like the split, I think in what the US did was great. Like they found a way to make sure that like you have teams that are kind of like approximate level of experience and skill get to play each other, and you get everyone kind of still playing and having a good time. I kind of think back to what like European Quidditch does. So they play on a much like grand scale with having I don't even know how many teams with like England, France, Belgium, Germany, like everything, right? But they have like 2 divisions. They have like an upper division and a lower division. And as they play through the year, they kind of get seeded into one of these divisions or based off like how they did last year. And then the top teams play on their bracket, and then there's like, I think it's like European Quidditch Developmental Cup or something. But then like the lower kind of seeded teams, they play in their bracket against each other, and they have like a kind of winners. So they all play meaningful games that are all going to be close, but it's all like everyone gets something worthwhile for them out of it. But they play with so many more teams that it's possible. For us, when you have like a 20 league like non-governing body like Quidditch Canada, it's a little bit tougher to do that. But yeah, it's hard to kind of weigh the pros and cons of this, and we could talk about this for hours, but
Yeah.
it's going to be something that's going to take a lot of time and pain to figure out a right solution, but I think we can get there. It's just a matter of figuring out what we need to do and people making sacrifices.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. I think that's why like this the whole I think the whole idea of this podcast is going to be sweet, because like we're going to have people coming in just like chatting about like what they think, and like it like there's no right or wrong answer. Like it is what it is. It's always interesting to see kind of like people from different perspectives, like kind of like alluding to what you're saying too, like Bryan, like the way I draw it all back to like soccer currently. Like even if you look at like how they have like the Champions League and they have the Europa League, like having those 2 different brackets, like yes, it's a lesser cup, but at least you're still competing for a trophy, and it's like you're playing against teams that are like on your level, and you're not like feeling like you're just playing meaningless sport. Like
you're playing against teams that have the same handicap as you, right? Like
yeah, exactly. And that's just gonna by developing that lower end talent in the country, it'll improve everyone eventually. So it's a cool idea.
I always thought about this, and I know like with 3 of you guys being from Queens, like I started at Guelph, and then Cody, you obviously started at Ottawa, and like I've talked to some of you guys about it, but like obviously not to trash our schools because they obviously provide us with stuff, but like how much like help did you guys like your teams get from your school? Because like I know Guelph was really good about it, and I know like they're pretty not like lenient, but like I think it was like you can have up to 20% of people who don't go to the school be on the roster and be part of the club. But like I think for Queens, you guys do like you have to be rather going to Queens or to graduated from Queens, right? Like it's very stringent rules. So I'm not sure if Cody, like you have anything from Ottawa, or you guys want to expand on that, but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting how those different schools they're all OUA, but completely different kind of help or different kind of rules that they have in place for themselves.
Yeah, we didn't have. I think we were allowed like the same kind of percentage. I think it was like 20% were allowed to not be a part of going to the school kind of thing. And then there was a difference with graduations and stuff like that too. But at the same time, I think even just like the support from the school would be really good too, because I know Ottawa didn't get a ton of support in terms of like financial support in that sense, which would have went a long way in terms of us developing better, I guess, in a way. Just being able to do more things and go to more tournaments and things like that.
See, this is me just butting in real quickly though. I remember my first tournament was at Waterloo, and I just remember like showing up super early because I think for some reason we just got there early with lucky traffic. But the one team that was like there ahead of us was Ottawa with a bus. So like I don't know if that was like completely like true or not. I may have misremembering, but like that's something, right?
It started well. It did.
Yeah.
We fundraised really well for ourselves too.
Mm-hmm.
But
exactly.
there was a point, I guess, where the relationship between the Quidditch team and like the actual school kind of fell apart. And like there was a couple years where like they weren't allowed to even use the logo or like the name on the jerseys or anything like that. So that's why they kind of shifted away from the GG logo to like the Parliament like building and stuff like that. So like we did start really well like that, which was fun. But we did slowly move away from that, unfortunately. But yeah, that support would have been, I think it would have also gone a long way in terms of keeping U Ottawa at the level they were, because they did see quite a drop off from when we were there to when we moved on to like the Otters and things like that.
I don't know if Mo, you want to kind of talk about like the more exec side. Like obviously, like I helped out a little bit with exec for like the 1 year, but like I don't know if you want to talk more about like I don't know how much like you know about the exact financing of it, but like just like in general, like what kind of like financial like support we got from Queens, because like I know like I can talk about like the actual like because I finally figured it out. Like it's so confusing, but like the actual like how they like divide the different teams for support. But like if you want to talk about like what, because we got like I think at least in your last year we got some pretty good support from Queens.
So originally my first year we were a club. We weren't even considered a team at that point. We weren't under athletics and recreation at Queens at all, so we weren't really getting any support from them. The only real support and money we were getting from the school was we were applying kind of for grants here and there, and we were getting club grants, but we were sharing those grants with a bunch of different student-run clubs and stuff like that. So in my second year, I believe it was when we made the switch over to the athletics and recreation department. And we definitely got, it was a hard transition to begin with. But I think overall we definitely got more support. We had access to be able to book a lot of the facilities on campus, so things like the turf fields or gym time, we were allocated a certain amount of hours every week to be able to book that. We had support on the like rental car side, so no longer did we have to kind of just go rent these cars out ourselves. We had deals from Queens to be able to get cheaper rentals and stuff like that. They definitely helped out. Organizing, financing, everything kind of had to run through them. So it was a little bit more organized in that sense. And then we had access to a lot more funding, assuming we applied for it, to be able to get a little bit more money towards actual equipment and stuff like that, specifically for equipment or anything that the team itself. So we definitely benefited from a lot of that stuff, I think, making that transition over. So yeah, definitely, I think Queens definitely was able to help in that sense, more so than when I originally started.
Yeah, then to quickly add on to that, I know in my last year there, once we were like officially, I guess, a rec team team represented the school, we were able to use their logo on our jerseys. So we had like official Queens uniforms that we were fortunate to have for a tournament and stuff like that. That's just a quick note to add.
I also want to add, as you know, all of you guys know anyways, I don't organize a lot of things. So like
you don't, Cody? You don't?
No, it's weird, right? So like from what I just said was like my personal, like what I saw from it, but I didn't actually know the behind the scenes of it. So like if I did say something wrong, that's on me. But like that was just my perception of it, of how it all went down for you, Ottawa.
Yeah, we're all super thankful for like what we're able to get out of our schools. Like they provide us with stuff, and like we're able to do all this, and obviously get to a point where we're no longer affiliated with the school. But like, yeah, it's great, and yeah, we don't know all of it. I only really started running a team like this past year. The most extent up to that before was randomly assigning myself like the party planning committee like organizer for the Otters. Like a lot of the stuff is just kind of like the exec side. There's a lot of logistics to it. I think the same thing with Quidditch Canada, right? Like they got to deal with a lot of stuff in the background that like it's hard to talk about exactly, but like it's there, and there's reasons why like things are said or things are done in a certain way because of policy. But I think it's more or less for the betterment of how like they want things to be done.
Yeah, for sure. And then Nate, I don't know if you want to talk about quickly, like, or briefly about like Ryerson. So like obviously we had a lot of questions, and like we'll do like an actual full podcast on it, like hopefully in the future. But like, if you want to talk briefly about like Ryerson's, like I know you were saying that Ryerson they actually have a team, and we saw them in, was it regionals, nationals? There were a couple of years. They were there one of those big tournaments. But talk about their situation a little bit.
Yeah. So when we both still played on Queens, I know they attended. I think it was regionals, a tournament they did attend.
Yeah.
But nowadays they're just like I guess it's basically what Queens was when Mo and I first started as like an AMS club. So for them, they're like a Ryerson club. They're not a official team or anything like that. Right now, they just run their team kind of like a fun day, basically every Sunday in the afternoon for a couple hours. It's also indoors inside the gym because we don't have a turf field like many other schools do, since we're located downtown in the downtown core. So for them, it's basically just kind of like a fun outlet, I guess, away from school, just kind of like a fun club or fun activity that students can come and join and just play indoor Quidditch. But I don't think they plan on attending any tournaments really going forward, because I know for a lot of the members that attend, they do not like the contact side of Quidditch. So since Quidditch is a full contact sport, and they don't have too many athletes, I guess, or natural athletes that attend those sessions. It's more so, I guess, the Harry Potter fan. So for them, yeah, that's not really. I think they're interested in terms of like attending tournaments and all that stuff. But yeah, so I did attend a couple of their practices, just kind of like help them out with that and kind of, I guess, teach some of those students who are getting into the game that wanted to learn more about it and stuff. And then I guess Bryan also knows this too. Like we got a few players from the Ryerson Quidditch team to join the Manatees, as we needed some non-male players for our roster. So we were able to like pull from there and then get some experience of actually playing the game with the contacts. So that was pretty good as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, yeah, it's hard because, like, yeah, this sport is also coming from like an area where you have Harry Potter fans, like from the origin of it, to like more like traditional athletes who are also like going toward it. So it's a weird mix, especially like you don't know, like if you randomly just went to university or college or whatever, and your school had it, you don't know what your like school has. Like I remember, I think real quickly about the like finally getting to use the Queens logo. I think the year before mine at Guelph, they had like a knockoff like lettering system or knockoff Griffin or something. I can't remember, but I remember hearing that like the team got in trouble for like using a copyrighted image, and it's like having like those support kind of things, and like you don't know if this is an athletic thing, you don't know if this is a club fun kind of thing. Like it's hard to get enough people to kind of all have a similar thought about what the team is going to be and keep that interest going.
Yeah, no, I think like going back to the Queens too, like it was great, like making that shift. So like really, really quickly, like the sporting, like how it works at Queens is we have like varsity teams. So that's like our football team. They get like all the funding, like hockey, all those different teams. The ones that kind of generate revenue is the best way to put it. And then you have like the varsity clubs. So that's kind of our lacrosse team, golf. I think our squash team is part of that as well. So like they're not quite like revenue generating, but they're like one tier below. And then we're part of the rec club, so we still get like funding. Like we get like huge discounts on like fields and stuff like that. But because we have like I don't know, I think the jerseys are cool. But honestly, like I like the 3-stripe or the 2-stripe, whatever, like the red and blue that we used to have. I think those ones are sick.
Oh, they're classic. They're
like
really classic.
Like the OG rugby ones, I like those ones so much better. But like, I mean, I don't know, it's good and bad. Like you're gonna win some or lose some, but and then to build off that point about like Ryerson, like I think like it's great that like we have those, like they have those teams, and like at least they have something like started, which is great. And I think kudos to like I did see like Quidditch Canada put out a couple of videos about like I wish they would have like advertised it more. Like I literally just saw because it was like a recommended video on my like YouTube. I've been watching this freaking Quidditch, but like it was like how to not how to start a team, but like how to host like a Quidditch event or whatever.
Yeah.
So they put these like little videos together, and like those are really, I think, beneficial. I know that some people were saying that it's like hosting like a ref clinic or like doing those like other things. Like it's not, you don't get as much engagement, but even just posting it on YouTube, like you can access it anytime. Like that's stuff like that's super helpful.
Yeah, shout out to Alex Downey Jin. I think I'm pronouncing your name.
Is that
yeah.
It? Yeah. Shout out
to Alex.
That's awesome. Great. I think stuff like that's definitely gonna help grow the college game, which is what we ultimately want to see. Obviously, like because by borrowing that, it'll help us grow the community side of it as well. But sweet. So obviously, going through this list here, I got a bunch of stuff going on. Maybe we'll talk about quickly the national team, and then we'll go into like the fun stuff, like the QC game. That's what I want to really get into. So really quickly, we'll just kind of quickly go over the national team thing because I know we have a couple of TC represents over here. So basically, I don't know, just kind of general conversation, like nothing like crazy, like just obviously share what you feel comfortable. Like I don't want to like throw anyone under the bus. Like that's not what we're trying to do here. But like what do you like about the system, like the program, maybe things that you like we can work on. And then like I think the big one is just like comparing Canada to like other teams. Obviously, like the US is like the gold standard. You can probably throw Australia in there too. And like obviously Europe's definitely growing. So I think looking at like Canada's performance in the World Cup is kind of harsh because like yes, like I think they would have liked to perform better, but I think just like the overall growth of the sport everywhere else is just you can't control what everyone else is doing. So I guess like the whole point of this is just to say like what do you guys think, like what do you like about it, and then what do you think maybe we can work on in terms of like development and like development systems and like training camps. It's something we kind of like Bryan and I and Nate talked about earlier on. So we'll start with Cody on this one.
I don't know. I think we're in a good like we've been growing in the right direction. I think with this current TC team and like having a standing team, I think is really important. And having the ability to build upon the players that are both in the standing team and the travel team, which is something that I'd like is pretty new for us here. And lately with the TC practices that has been around, there's been a lot more. Generally, there's been a lot more people there, which is not only helping people develop. Like the people that are there are on the team, but some people are not either. They just want to get out there for more practice, which is like I think the biggest thing. And the most needed thing, I think, for a successful Team Canada, just because, like, one, it allows everybody to develop, and then they play more, and it enables the coaches to run the practices the way they want, instead of showing up to a practice and only having 14 people or something like that. So, like, they have to adjust what their expectations are on the fly instead of being able to run the practice like they've been planning on running it for the past weeks when they were prepping for it. I think that's the biggest thing for us. Like I know, like when we look at the States and Australia, like Australia has a team that's running for 2 years leading into World Cup. So that's the only team they play with, I think, from what I understand. So like if we, not to say that we need something like that, but like having a standing team and having to practice these people for 2 years straight, just it grows us a lot, and like it allows them to the coaches not only to make lines and things like that, but just like the team chemistry in general will increase, and then I think that would help our performance overall and when it goes to Worlds.
Yeah, I agree. Like my first I was part of the Canadian Eastern Regional team for Pan Ams, and like I'm still within the TC program, obviously, and like it's been growing in the right direction. I think like 2018, I meant to try out for it. I did one tryout. I was happy with my performance. And then I decided not to go to a second tryout because I'm dumb. And I think I can't remember what happened. But basically, I think I was going to Europe like later when that year or something. So I really didn't have the vacation for it. But long story short, like that year was the year they kind of narrowed it down to like, okay, we're gonna have like a standing roster and then a travel roster. And the standing roster I think was like 40 people or something like that, whatever it was. But the extent of like, okay, we can have a big group of people and then we could choose our people from that program. We could all train and have that. Great first step. And I think they realized the problem with like having two kind of regions, like it's harder to like pick certain players or like pick a certain kind of. I can't remember all the logistics behind it, but like when you have a bigger team and a bigger kind of standing roster, you kind of were allowed to make easier decisions, or I think rules might have just changed. Either way, I think that the next step was moving like toward having a just kind of a developmental program and kind of having a bigger standing roster, so that like whatever choices were made, like you can make them freely. You have people showing up to practice, like exactly what you said, Cody. Having like 20, 30 plus people out of practice is going to do way more for you than having 14. Like, you can't expect to have a good practice at that. Like, it's the same thing with any, like, college or club team, right? Like, that's 2 lines. Like, be ready to scrimmage for 10 minutes straight and then be gassed. Like, it's not helpful. Yeah. But I think, like, what I think the U.S. talked about, and I think we copied it, I'm not sure. Maybe we created it. I don't know. But having like that developmental program, that TC pipeline, I think it's been coined. You can get those younger players in and start developing and learning those habits, getting better. Like it's the right call. It's the right move. And I really don't have anything bad to say about TC. I really don't have any reason to. Like we're doing things right. It's just a matter of keep going, making sure we keep people coming and growing the program. Simple as that.
Yeah, I can't really speak from like a player perspective, but just from an outside perspective, I think you nailed it there, Bryan, on that whole idea of that like QC pipeline. I think that was one of the big things that they changed focus into developing after the last World Cup, if I'm not making a mistake. And I think a real big part of that to add on is the fact that you keep interest in the national team. So people that might not have made the team or the travel team maybe off the bat the first iteration around, but they're still young, they're still developing, they're still like great players that have a lot of potential, might not have that interest if they just get cut, and that's that sort of thing. I think having that pipeline where there's always that opportunity to make that travel team, to be able to just grow, learn, and gain that experience over a year or two or whatever it might be, to be able to then keep them around so that the next time you're looking at making your travel team, you actually have a decent pool of players to pull from.
Yeah, to pick up on that point, I think a good thing is like having Pan Am games was huge. So it gave the players something to play for, and it helped that the West and the East both had that split, so they each played on their own teams. But that was great because then it allowed the coaches to see what they had in the East and what they had in the West. Like you ended up playing each other, but the fact that there was something to play for meant a lot, I think. Like I wasn't at Pan Am's, but I like just knowing that there was something to play for. And then I know that TC this year was looking to play the MLQ teams in Canada, just so there's something for us to play for and we can actually play real games. And like I think just knowing that there's something coming is huge in terms of keeping people and keeping that interest that like you're needed in order to build this standing program.
I think too, like I completely agree. But with the East-West kind of split, it was good because I think in my mind it's not necessarily completely true, but like the way the East plays and the way the West plays is a little bit different, obviously, just because of really kind of minimal like contact with each other. But like for Pan Am's, that's like not really necessarily limited to having one team participate. Like the U.S., they killed us. Like they're amazing. They're the gold standard. Like I said before. Like I wouldn't care if they sent 4 teams, like a north, south, east, west. Like bring it on. Like the more quality players you have gathering, like that's how you find better players, and that's how you get better. If you're just playing like one team, one game, who cares? And you're seeing it in QC right now. I think that's the problem. Like you want more Quidditch, and you get better Quidditch from it. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's easy. I think it's easier for the Americans. Like I know that I don't know the full like program, but I've heard that like they have like a developmental academy, as if they call it. But like it's easier. I think it's easier for them because they've been so successful. It's easier to attract those players and be like, hey, like we won World Cup, and like whereas like for us, it's kind of like yeah, we've been successful like on the world the world stage, but like with everyone improving, it's and not like medaling more recently. It's or like except for the Pan Ams obviously, but like on the world stage, like it's hard. Like I said, it's harder to keep those people engaged. And then also like the other thing too is like having that geographical like disadvantage where we're so far apart and trying to get everyone together to practice. Whereas all the Americans I'm pretty sure all the Americans. I'm pretty sure like when we went to Boston, like Jake was saying that some people like just moved to Boston to play with the Knight Riders to like train. Like that's like wow. That's insane. Like so like that it's just stuff like that where like it's just like you just like shake your head. It's like Americans are gonna be Americans, man. Like honestly, like but like I don't know. It's will we beat the U.S.? Yes, one day. I think we will beat the U.S. I think it's gonna be a while before we get to that point. But like it's like I said, it's all about improving everyone as a whole. And I think by having these conversations, we're gonna find ways to get to that point. But yeah, you guys have any other points you want to add to that before we move on?
I'll throw in real quickly. Like if they're going all the way across, well, maybe not across the country, but they're moving to like a state to train and like having U.S. North, South, East, West, like they have regionals already, just pulling from those conferences to make like a regional team for Pan Ams. Like having that ability, like I think pulling the point of like having an East Canada and West Canada, it's damn near impossible to train together. Like you can, and you can get flights, but it's going to cost an arm and a leg. And like it's good to get all together and practice, but it's harder. But if you have regional teams competing, you get more talent out there, and like I would be scared to play against 4 different U.S. teams, just 4 different looks. Like that's how you develop. And if they're gonna throw that out there, like I would look forward to playing against them, but damn, that's scary. Like
yeah, I do want to like emphasize that I do think that for us in TC, I think we are moving in the right direction though.
Yeah.
And that
absolutely,
we are going to get there eventually as being a contender at Worlds consistently. We just got to keep improving in the way we're doing it, and like I think we are making those right strides. I don't want to keep talking about like the U.S. and be like, oh, they're so great and everything, but like then it diminished what we're doing here. Like I do think it's important to note that we are making the right moves and stuff, and I think TC needs to be applauded for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we will get there. It's just give us a couple times or a couple years here, and we'll be there.
Yeah, just to quickly add on to that before you guys move on, I just find that like TC, they definitely transitioned their focus not just on like the national team, but I guess the country as a whole, like QC as a whole. They're trying to develop all players, and I find by developing, like having a focus or having, I guess, an emphasis on developing a country as a whole, obviously over time, like everyone's going to get up to that level that you want to be like a competitive international team, like year in, year out. So I think they're definitely doing good by that.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I think we kind of already touched on like the community side of it. I don't know if you guys want to like. I mean, once we get to the next segment here, we'll maybe talk about like fun memories from like ours and stuff like that. Because you want it to be kind of we wanted to have a couple of like fun stories here and there, but we're like the time's flying here, so we'll kind of segue into what we're calling the chill vibes only segment. So this is kind of where we just I don't want to say we've been serious, but they've been like more like formal kind of topics. So I think with this, it'll be a nice little break up and just to kind of wrap up here. So between the 3 of us, we created the QC money game, what we call it. So obviously, for those that didn't see, MLQ released like a chart with certain players, and they assign them each a set value. So $5 being the top player, and then $1.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Oh, everyone good? Small technical difficulty.
We're good?
yeah.
No worries. But yeah, so we have like a spreadsheet set up.
I'm currently putting it on the screen, so it's recording if anyone wants to look at it. Perfect. You guys wouldn't see it, obviously. You have your own links.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like we set it up so there's five. I think it's so three keepers per money bracket, and then we have 5 beaters and 5 chasers per like I said, per money bracket. And we've assigned the first sort of category, I guess if you will, is we went with what MLQ had, which was $18, and you have to create 1 line of in-game quaffle play. So like if it was just like we won't even start with brooms up. We'll just say like the game's already started, your team versus someone else's team. Who are you going with? Gender rules apply. 2 beaters, like this regular set. So 2 beaters, your 3 chasers, and the keeper.
Also, just to clarify real quickly for anyone watching, what we put as values for everyone not necessarily demonstrates like who, if someone's worth this much more than someone else. I think it comes down to like what they've done so far in the league, what they've accomplished, their experience as well. So it's not necessarily how much they're worth, it's how much value you can get out of someone. So if someone's on the lower end, that's not saying they're bad, but you can get a lot of value out of them for a cheaper cost. So
yeah,
just to clarify.
Like disclaimer there too, like with like obviously all of us here are from the East, and we tried our absolute best to get a bunch of West players in there too. So like I'm not sure if we're gonna have like that like I have it actually like for you guys to see right away, but like you're gonna notice there's obviously gonna be East bias, but we tried our very best to have as much like variety. We just don't see the West teams playing as much. So like forgive us for being slightly biased. And then also to add on what Bryan was saying too, like we struggled making this list. Like we started like at first, I think when we started doing it, we wanted to be like current, and then we were like, okay, man, like, this is like it's like we can't even get like because we're so many good players. So we're like, okay, we'll go back to like having otters, so like that kind of filled up a couple spots, and we had to shift people around because we wanted it to be equal number of positions per money bracket. It was insane. It took us hours to do this, but we think we got a cool game here. And then also like with the lower players, what you're saying too, like the way I was describing it to like Mo and Cody is like the ELC players, like they're like kind of like the up and coming rookies that you would get on like a low contract in like the NHL kind of thing. So like that's just kind of the whole idea with that. So we'll get started. So yeah, like I said, $18, 1 line, in-game quaffle play, gender rules apply. Who wants to go first?
Well, I can go first, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I made 2 lines because like there's so many people on this on this chart, and I was all over the place with what I wanted to do. So I don't know. Like I can make my 1 team or 1 line, I guess, and then we can like alternate if you guys want. I don't know.
Yeah, it works.
But yeah, not gonna lie. Like even a disclaimer, like I don't even know half these players' names from the East, let alone the West. Like, that's just me being in a bubble. I don't know. I know a lot of them, so it's like that helped a lot. But for me, what I did here is I started with my beaters, because as much as I chirp beaters and stuff, like honestly, like if you have weak beaters, your chasers don't really mean a lot in that sense. So I started with Shaggy, because me and Shaggy ran forever together, so I gotta give him a shout out, him and his toque. And then his partner would have been Heather, which I think is great value from her. You guys want me to say values and stuff, or like can people just follow along and whatever?
I'll keep track.
Okay. Oh, you're counting. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Oh God.
That's good.
Yo, you're also talking to the guy who did the
See
stats
how
for
good
the
I am at
entire
math.
regionals. I did
Yeah,
the
no,
stats
it's
for all the
good.
regionals, so like I know all these people way more
You're
than
gonna
they
see
know
how
me.
good I am at counting.
Yeah.
I'm sure. No, yeah. Adding's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got Shaggy and Heather as my beater.
7.
There's Wilson for sure.
He's frozen.
So
The
he'd be.
wheel is Cody.
Yeah.
Oh, he's back.
Sorry. Yeah, so we're gonna run John with Chaser, with Cameron Powers from the GGs. He's a really good up and coming player, I think.
Yeah.
And like he might not be really well known everywhere, but I think he will be known in a couple years.
Super quick.
He's just really good. Yeah, he's super
He's
quick,
super
super agile, good hands. Then I'd run Lydia, who from Queens. You guys all know her. She's great. And then to round it out as my keeper, I went with Austin Wallace out in the West. I haven't seen Austin play a lot, mind you. But what I have seen, he's got great hands. He's got great passing ability. He controls the play really well. So I think with the speed that we have, that I picked anyways, on the outsides, I think he'd be able to find the open spots and then be able to work with everyone really well. And then math guy over there, I think that's
that's 18. That's 18.
Perfect.
It's 18. I also say like I like this team also because like you have John, who's a big guy and could like block but plays chaser, and then you have Austin Wallace, who plays keeper, who's a little bit smaller but like can pass the ball super well. So you have like, and then you have Cameron with speed. You have Lydia, who's like just all around good defense. Like, yeah, great blend. I give you 10 out of 10.
Contact either.
18 out of 18. Very nice.
Oh, thanks, man.
18 out of 18.
So I went through the big old spreadsheet and realized just now that I definitely missed a column. So I'm gonna be trying to switch some players up live. Just because didn't realize that until now, so that's on me. But I also kind of took the same approach Cody took. I actually originally tried to do my chasers first and my keeper, and realized that I ain't gonna get the beaters. I just couldn't fit in. And Cody's got a great point though, that it's your team really revolves around beaters. I don't think as a chaser I can do half the stuff that I could do without my beaters and without my beater support. So definitely started on with my beaters as well. So to begin, I also started with Heather. I think Cody kind of touched on all the points with Heather. Great all-around player, great leader. She led Carleton as head coach this past season, I believe. Now the VP of Carleton. Yeah, great all-around player. And then her partner I picked was Sugar. So I think he has a lot of experience playing out in Europe. A lot of great ideas, and is able to kind of act on the fly and really adapt, I think, in my opinion, to situations in game. He was my second beater pick there. On the chaser side of things, my first chaser was John Nicholson from Queens. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Big guy, fast guy, can hit, can tackle, basically do it all. So great all-around player. My next chaser was Yara. My goodness, Yara is just a great player. Like I think that's really self-explanatory. At least from a lot of the people watching this in the East will know that, and probably out West as well. But yeah, Yara, great all-around player. Isn't afraid to really get in and around the hoops, get into those dirty spots, get those goals. Round out my chasers, I picked Indiana Nickel. So someone out from out West. Definitely seen a lot of his play on live streams from regionals and some stuff at nationals as well. Again, great all-around player, super physical, super fast. Thought it would complement the team a lot. And then to round it off, my keeper was Alex Crawley of Queens. Again, super tall, super lanky, so great spot for him at keeper, but also just super confident carrying the ball, and very fast. So that was my team.
Well,
hopefully that math still checked out.
Math doesn't check out, buddy. Math doesn't check out. You're $1 over.
Am I $1 over?
Yeah, you are.
Man. Okay.
Oh, buddy.
I did do a swap there, like.
Oh wait, sorry.
So...
No, never mind. You're good. I made a mistake. Math guy is wrong.
Yes.
Math guy is wrong. Sorry.
What are we paying you for, man?
Sorry, you're not paying me. That's the problem.
We're not paying him.
Keep in mind, folks, this guy runs stats for QC.
Yeah.
So
if you have a mistake, let's just
double check your numbers.
please. I don't want to hear anymore. Where are the beater stats? I've already got a bunch of those. I really don't need to hear it, man. Don't need to hear it.
Did you guys do this too, or was it just Mo and I that did this time?
I did one.
I had a couple that I did, but go ahead, Nate. I'll jump into mine later.
So I kind of just made this one. I'll probably switch them up for every podcast episode that we do. But for this one, I decided to start off from the quaffle players. So I started off with my chasers just to see how I could, I guess, build a team starting off from that point. So you guys all mentioned already John Nicholson. He's one of my chasers. Fast, big, physical. Can play both sides of the game pretty well. He can also step in at keeper, even though I know he hates the position. But if need be, he can do that as well. Then I have, beside him, I have Jeremy, who I consider to be probably the best chaser, if not one of the best chasers in the country. Super fast, super physical. He's probably the best driver in the country in terms of that. Tall, muscular. Once again, he can play both sides of the game. So I think him and John together would be a pretty good pairing. I don't think too many teams would want to go against that. And then rounding out the chasers, I have Haley Yap. Of course, she has experience playing with John for a few years at Queens. She is a bit of a smaller player, but she's super quick, very confident with the ball. She can carry the ball up and down the field, and she can finish pretty well around the hoops as well. So I think that's a pretty good chaser line there. And then for keeper, I have Spencer, just all-out physical guy. I don't think too many teams will want to drive against him when they're on defense. So I think a combination of him and John and even Jeremy as well will definitely make the team a very strong, fast, yet physical team. And then, of course, I ran into some money problems at the end, seeing how I finished off my beaters. But I think I still was able to get a pretty solid beater pair together. So you guys both had Heather. I had her as well for the same reasons you guys mentioned. She's very reliable, experienced playing MLQ. And so I have her as my female beater. And then for her beater partner, I went with Jimmy from Queens. He's a bit of a unrecognized player. He's been playing for many years, so he definitely has experience, I guess, playing in all types of game situations. So I think, yeah, that's my team right there of my starting lineup in a game situation.
Yeah, like I've been playing around with this a lot. I think, like originally when I first did it, I did like qualifiers players first, and I think the play is to do qualifiers players first, just because I think there's more value in the dollar players for beaters. Like some of those lower end beaters, they might not be like the $5 players, but I think you get a lot of value in that. So this is definitely not like the only team I made, but I'm gonna go with this just like introduce like new players as well, because I had like John and I had Lydia as well, so I changed it up last minute here. But to start with the beaters, I also went with Jimmy. I think Jimmy is, I don't say underrated, but I think he goes a little bit unnoticed a lot of times, like Nate was saying there. So I picked him. So shout out my boy Jimmy. I went also with Shaggy. Pretty self-explanatory, like what Cody was saying. Obviously, he also was he head coach? Yes, I think he was head coach of Black Bears. That was huge. I'll never forget that day, man. Unreal.
Winning this season.
Yeah, most winningest season. That was huge show. Yeah, shout out Shaggy and Miss Duke. And then I was a double male bearder set, and then I went with Yap, for female chaser. Obviously one of the best, one of the top female chasers in the country. And then I also I went with this, might be, I don't say it's a surprise pick, but definitely a value pick for the chaser. I went with Liesel from McGill.
Very good player.
I don't know if you guys have seen her play, but she's unbelievable. I remember regionals, and then I'm looking at the stats that Bryan was collecting, and she scored a ton of goals, and I was like, I'm pretty sure it's the person I'm thinking of, but if it is, she played unbelievable.
I think as the blonde hair, I don't know how to describe it, but it's great player. Great player.
Yeah, she was unreal. And then I went with another couple. I guess you can call this a budget team. I'm pretty sure I have $1 to spare on this one. I went with another rookie, Alex Pham from Queens. He got a lot of. I think he was turning a lot of heads at the regionals. He's definitely going to be a solid player for Queens. All around solid athlete. Super fast, great hands on the hoop. Kind of reminds me of Beta a little bit. If he develops that shot, I think he'll be like Beta-esque for sure. Especially with Beta's long shot. And then I also went with Spencer and Keep for a little bit of physicality. So I'm pretty sure I have $1 to spare there, but I want to try to change it up a little bit.
Very nice. So full disclosure, I came up with my list just like on the fly, but I went for a completely different strategy than you guys. I went for just shits and giggles. So
For the otter,
I'll see if you guys can pick up like what I did with my team, but in a particular order, I guess. Brooke Walker, Chaser, great player for Guelph. She's got a lot more recognition recently. Absolute lockdown defender. Followed by Ryan Babanese, second-year player for Royal City. Great pick. Good value as well. Followed by Yara. You can't say enough about her. I don't think I could keep going, but I just get like points as like her assistant coach for Raiders. But yeah, great player, great leader. Alex Pham next. So yeah, great young rookie. Like Gabe, you were saying about it before. Like he has like all the tools are all there. It's just a matter of developing them more. And I don't think that's any like hit on him, but more just like give that some time, and he's gonna be amazing. Next, Norbert. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name. Norbert Bueno. He plays McGill. I've been hit by him so many times that I can't remember. The dude can just lay you out, and he's a terror carrying the ball. And then last but not least, Martin Chazon, otherwise known as Shaggy. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm terrible with the French pronunciations. But yeah, all good all-around dude, great player. If you guys picked that up, I literally just spelled out Brian M with my team, so that was literally my theme. Yeah. I don't know if that's necessarily the best team. I think it's a pretty good team on paper. I like seeing my own name there. That's an added bonus. But yeah, there's a lot of good talent all around QC. That's basically my point of I can just throw together a team of or a line of great players kind of at random, and I feel happy about it given that value. And 18 out of 18. So using all that money.
Just like one point to add on. It's like when we were developing this game, like we were able to really think about a lot of the players that like go unnoticed in the league, I guess. So I think like from this we're able to kind of give more recognition to those players that kind of go basically like I said, unnoticed in the quidditch community.
Yeah. So yeah, shout out to everyone on those rosters. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's funny that like we kind of all picked generally the same people, which like isn't to say that like it's a bad thing. It's just to show that like the values that you can get like in this chart, but also just like let's say like with Heather, like she might not be the most well-known person, but like the fact that we all know her again might be an East bias thing, but like to give her the recognition that she deserves, I think is important, and I think that's something that's really cool with this game that you guys have here.
And you could spell names out really easily.
So then the second, I guess we'll probably finish up with this one because we're going, like I said, time's flying here. So I think we'll probably finish up with this one. So the second, category or portion of the game was we upped it to $21, and then it would be one line of Seeker for. So the way I think of it is like overtime action. So you have public play going, but you also have the Seeker floor. So you get an extra $4, $4, and you have to add. You can keep the same team, or you can add. You can change it up a little bit, but you get an extra $4 based on how you pick your team. If you went with $18, then you added Chaser or whatever. Seeker. So let's hear these teams.
There's no one with an E letter for their first name. I can spell.
Oh man.
No, I'm gonna create my whole new line right now. Why don't you guys go? I'm just thinking.
Okay. So for me, I just added on a player. I'm pretty sure it was $3 more, Gabe.
My math is not.
If I'm not mistaken, so I went with John Keats. I know he has experience seeking, and he's also like tall, lanky, so he's really good against, I guess, the the Seekers where it's harder to reach around. So I think he'd get in most or he'd be pretty good against most snitches, especially the ones that are speeding quick, that kind of like running around everywhere. I think he'd be pretty good to keep up with them as well.
I'll go next, I guess, but I'm going to use my second line for this one, just
Okay.
to give more recognition out for other people here. It's just going to be real quick, though. So, the beaters, it was Raph and Aaron McCready. Probably the two of the best beaters out there.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, I played with those two once. It was great.
I know. I just realized that. That's oh my god.
Yeah, and honestly, like, they can control the entire game. So, like, when Snitch is on pitch, they have so much control there. And then I'd run with Darren Bell from Carleton, someone who's up and coming for sure, great guy, and super good at the sport already. And also go with David. I'm gonna say this wrong. Kazam. Yeah. Played for Waterloo. Also played for Black Bears for a year. Super fast. Would be great when Snitch is on. Savannah Campbell as well, who would, in this case, when Snitch comes on, she'd be seeking. She's also great, up and coming, super great. And then from Guelph, the keeper, Liam
Cadden. Yeah.
Cadden.
He's
Yeah,
good.
I'd have him as my keeper. I haven't seen a lot of him, but he's been at TCU lately. He's been super great. I've seen him on in games here and there, super great as well. And then to add as a chaser, I'd add Beta as well, to kind of solidify when Snitch is on. And honestly, like, when Snitch isn't on with this line, like, I feel like Erin can just like quarterback the entire thing and just tell people where to go. Because that's honestly what she did my first year, and she just yelled at me the entire time, and I just followed her lead, and it worked out well. But yeah, that'd be my guys.
So I made a completely different team for this one. But on beaters, I had Raph and Gola. I think Gola, with his long legs, just being able to get the balls wherever they go very quickly would be pretty key. And Raph, with a lot of experience, obviously. Chaser side, I went with Michael Wanless. Played with them on Black Bears. Great all-around player. I had Lydia for my other chaser, and then I had I couldn't really pick, so either Darren Bell, Cameron Powers, or David Kazam. I think, Cody, you touched on both Cameron and David already, but yeah, both great. All three of them, up and coming players. Really excited to see kind of where they'll be going in the next few years. Keeper, I had Spencer. I think just the tackling side of things, be able to slow the play down if needed, be able to stop the offensive drive from the other team. And then my seeker would be Michael Gomes. I think with the beaters, he'd have a lot of time to be able to make that clutch catch that he's always done. So that was my $21 team.
Nice. I also added one. I think that's why I messed up when I said $3 or $4 instead of $3, because I had 4 stuck in my head because I had the extra $1. So I went with a $4 chaser. I went with Indiana Nickel. I was watching the Valhalla event Stormcrows game the other day and seeing his catch, so his super clutch catch in the bronze medal game there. So yeah, I'd go with him. He's unreal seeker. He's had some, and that wasn't his only big catch. I think he had a big catch too against I think it was Edmonton in the regionals that same year or the year before. Yeah. So he's super great seeker. So I'd have him in my seeker slot.
Nice. Did everyone else go, or is it my turn?
Your turn, Bryan.
My turn. So I throwing a team together. I actually threw like a proper kind of line together. I had a quick idea that I wanted to do, and then ended up not having enough time to actually throw it together. I wanted to make a line of all 7 people who could play seeker. Maybe next time. But no, so I threw together Spencer, keeper. The dude is human cheat code sometimes. He can just, no one's his size, his strength. He is what he is. Jeremy Burrows-Balka. If you're not throwing 3 people on Spencer, the other person probably should be on Jeremy. So basically, you're just forcing teams to have to pick one. to guard, and honestly, at that point, I don't even know if that will stop either of them. With the other two chaser spots, I went with Connor Loudly, Frieden. Nate, you would know him from Manties this year. He played Waterloo previously.
Mhm.
I scout this entire league for like knowing people. When I found out he was on our team, I was like, okay, cool, like another dude, cool. The dude isn't real. Like, he's really, really good, really underrated player. Really big shout outs to him. Like, he was like my absolute like surprise of the year, and like I was like, okay, I'm off. I need someone to go on to go do something. Connor, go do something. And sure enough, something would happen. So yeah, shout out to him. Other one, rookie shout out that I don't think you guys really noticed as much. I didn't notice until the Guelph tournament in the winter. Emma Starrett. If you want a snapshot of like, think Haley Yap or like, think Haley Yap from like a couple years back when she was kind of like lesser known. That's Emma, like right now. Like she's that same level of like, she's projectability of being like one of the like greatest or best female chasers. She knows exactly where she's supposed to be, catches every ball, throws balls like pinpoint. Like, she's really, really good. Savannah Campbell I took as my seeker, female player, great seeker just in general, enough like to pick her on that. Added bonus of being able to throw another like bigger male on the quaffle side. And then beaters, I went with Kaylee Mendoza from the West, from Edmonton. Great player. I don't know what else to say, just great player. And then I think the most dangerous beater for cinch on pitch in the league, in my opinion, Zach McDonald. The guy literally wins games for Guelph. Like, they have great seekers, but when you have that much time, it's usually because of Zach or Kaylin Beddings, who's his usual partner. But yeah, that's my team. I don't know. Maybe I'll come up with some new concept for next time. Or maybe I'll go with the like full seeker lineup next time.
All right. So yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. I just want to thank you guys so much for coming on. Obviously, this is our first kind of kick at the can with this whole sort of podcast idea, but I don't know. I'm really happy with how it's kind of gone, and obviously, as we figure things out together as a group here, we'll hopefully be able to keep going and keep getting the discussion going in terms of just topics in Quidditch. And yeah, I just want to thank you guys so much for coming on. And do you have any questions for us before we go here?
No, I'd like to thank you guys for having me and Cody on. I think it's stuff you guys are doing here is pretty cool, especially during this unforeseen circumstances going on right now. So I think it'll be good just for people to see and to be able to join in discussion and stuff like that. There's a lot of posts, stuff that happen on Facebook and whatnot, but I think it'd be cool to have a little bit more of an in-depth discussion with other people like this, and to be able to get not just the players out east, but also the players out west, and just have some fun with it, especially when everyone's at home right now, and hopefully staying safe and all that. But what you guys are doing here is really good stuff. I really enjoy it. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys do with it, to be honest. I know it's like one of the first, but like I'm glad to see someone's doing it. Like, I know they have one in the States, which is cool, but like we should have a Canadian spin on it. I'm glad that you guys are spearheading it. I think you guys are going to do great with it.
Awesome. Thanks guys so much. We'll just plug our Instagram real quick. So if you have any questions or you have any ideas, if you want to be a guest on our podcast here, our Instagram, shout out Nate for putting that together, is CQQC, all lowercase, _podcast. So just go ahead, follow us on Instagram, and we'll be posting the links to the podcasts as we kind of go along. And our next podcast, we're trying to be regular with it. We'll have it Tuesdays and Thursdays. Our next podcast is going to be this Thursday. We're going to kind of do it in like a 2-part segment. So we'll have, we're going to have Michael Bate on, So he's also a former Queens player. He's now with Valhalla, as well as Calder. Schweitzer from Guelph. Royal City.
He played well. He played Royal City, then played Guelph, then played Royal City again. He's
From
there.
both.
Yeah.
From the Guelph Quidditch program.
Yeah.
So we'll have them on first, and then we'll have Haley Yap and a rookie with Queens right now, Matt. So they'll be on our next one. We're going to be talking about the contact and more athletic side of the games. That's going to be our next episode. So we'll look forward to seeing you guys then. And thanks again, guys, for coming on, and stay safe. And we'll hope to see you guys around.
You guys then.
Okay. Have a good one, everyone.
Cheers.